I call it 3 tiers of homelessness. I know it sounds like inhumane to describe it in such terms, but a lot of even chatters themselves have actually gone through this. Okay? Tier 1 homelessness is the invisible homelessness. There are homeless people around you right now that are housing insecure that you don't even recognize. That is a person that has gotten priced out of the housing market but still has a job oftentimes. It is a person that has at least some material possessions that they've put in their car or are either doing that or couch surfing. Okay? They don't have a home, but they're couch surfing. They're living with someone else as they look for, as they become more burdensome to people around them and it becomes harder and harder to maintain a job. Okay? That's tier 1. Tier 2 homelessness is when you are living in your car, okay, and you lose your car basically. Or you're living in your car and your car gets towed. You're living in your car and you get ticketed because there's a lot of anti-homelessness provisions that make it so that you can't even live in your car, right? You have no consistent way of showering. You have no consistent way of cleaning your clothes. It becomes increasingly harder and harder for you to keep a job. You have no address. Sometimes you might not even have a bank account. You become tier 2 homeless in that situation. You've been priced out of the housing market and now you have no means of recovery. And then you arrive at tier 3 homelessness, which oftentimes is when you've been living as a homeless person, as a houseless person for an extended period of time. You start doing drugs in order to self-medicate, to basically, cope with the reality that you have been served. Okay. And ultimately, throughout the different years of living through homelessness, you no longer have a method of dealing with it. Your brain starts frying. You have trauma. Because when you're tier 2 homeless or even tier 1 homeless or definitely in tier 3 homelessness, you're constantly getting assaulted. Okay? You're getting assaulted by the conditions of nature, which is the reason why, even cavemen lived in caves. You know what I mean? You need shelter. You're constantly being assaulted by other people, whether it be other homeless people or other non-homeless people that are beating the shit out of you, stealing your shit. This is a ongoing problem. If you're a woman, it's especially traumatic because there's also sexual assault on top of that. This happens inside of shelters even more frequently. Part of the reason why shelters are not an adequate solution. If you've ever talked to a homeless person or if you've ever read about this sort of thing, you understand that shelters are really just not good at all. They're awful. People steal your shit. That is, if you're lucky enough to be able to bring your shit into the shelter, because shelters oftentimes will not allow you to bring any of your material possessions. Okay? They won't let you bring your pets. They won't let you bring your material possessions. And you have to be cold turkey. And going cold turkey is not exactly easy if you're already hooked on drugs. So a lot of people literally choose to, and then when you pair that up with assault, and when you pair that up with the likelihood of sexual assault and property theft, okay? All of a sudden, it seems better to sleep in a tent than have a roof over your head when you're inside of a shelter, okay? So you're making that bargain in your head year over year, okay? Then you're also taking drugs on the side. Your brain becomes completely warped. Once you're on the 3rd tier of homelessness, that is the type of homeless person that you regularly see in public and have negative experiences with, negative associations with. That's the lady with the hardened leather-looking skin that is half naked. You know what I mean? That's what people think about when they think about homeless people. That's the person that is the homeless person that is the most easily dehumanized by mainstream media. That's the homeless person that you probably had a negative association with. And that's part of the reason why you're like, oh no, we can't help these people. They're all on drugs. They're all crazy. And of course, that's the homeless person that is the hardest to deal with as well. That is the hardest to bring back into society. That's the hardest to heal. And no matter which tier of homelessness we're talking about, the most adequate way is to use a housing first policy. Immediately find them permanent shelter, okay? To give them a sense of autonomy, to help them regain their humanity. You can immediately tackle every tier 1 homeless person that way, immediately. Like, you have provided them with shelter, all of a sudden, boom, their problems are gone. 99% of their problems are gone. Same with tier 2 homeless people, which might require a little bit more care in the form of like social workers helping them out. And same with tier 3 homeless people as well, with more adequate mental health checks and therapy, immediate therapy, and recovery and rehabilitation programs that are readily available for them, training programs after they have gone on a pathway to recovery. In that way, one, you create an entire new industry that is currently super underfunded. I mean, there is a capitalist alternative to this even, okay? It's just you take a short-term profit cut, okay? Your house is not going to be as expensive because now there's more houses that are readily available. If you're bought into the hospitality industry, maybe they took some of the motels and turned them into or converted them into housing, okay? But now there's a new industry working on this, the gigantic new industry that's working on it. Now on top of that, your housing market, the housing market will recover ultimately because there's no homeless people in your neighborhood, okay, in the long term. And ultimately, it would be better for society as well. But of course, capitalism forces people into thinking in short-term benefits. So they can't do that, especially if there's any kind of short-term profit loss. Oh my God, that is the worst thing you could ever advocate for. God forbid.